Welcome to episode 40 of the Upland Rookie Podcast. I'm your host, Will Larson, and as always, this is presented by Upland Brits. Also brought to you by Inukshuk Professional Dog Food, the world's highest energy dog food, period. Inukshuk's dense formulations ensure that your pup in training and your seasoned bird dog get what they need to succeed in the field. High protein for muscle recovery and retention, high fat for quick access to much needed energy. Inukshuk works hard so your dogs can work harder. Check them out at inukshukpro.com. Also brought to you by Trinity Bretons, now offering the Trinity Upland Academy, which is coming up this June of 2022. Trinity Upland Academy helps each Trinity Breton client attain and develop the highest level of training with George Hickox. Trinity is committed to producing premium Epinol Bretons for the field trialer and foot hunter alike. Check them out at trinitybretons.com. Gunner Kennels. I've personally used and tested every major kennel brand on the market. After months of hands-on experience, Gunner is the only kennel I'll use for my favorite bird dog. Man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. That's a Gunner kennel. Also brought to you by Pointer Freaking Traditions. My favorite collars I have ever used for my bird dogs. Check them out, pointertraditions.com. Use promo code ROOKIE15. Hey, what's going on, everyone? I hope you are doing well. We got a great episode here coming up for you, episode 40. Gosh, I cannot believe we are at 40 episodes, and what I'm more excited about is 50,000 downloads. I was just checking the numbers a couple days ago, and we are cruising past 50,000 downloads. I'm so thankful for just the support and just excitement around the podcast. Coming up right around the year mark from when I released this show. And I have to say, it's blown me away. Being new to podcasting and had this concept in my head of what I wanted to do and what I wanted this show to be about. And I had doubts. I had my doubts for sure of, is anyone going to listen to this? Is it going to flow? Is it going to make sense? Are people even going to listen? I don't know. I'm fairly new to this whole Upland thing myself, and I just really started pushing and saying, no, like I think what I have can be unique and can be something people would enjoy, and I'm glad I stuck with it. I'm really glad that I pushed through the fear and just put it out there and put some ideas to paper and reach out to some guys and girls that I really respect in the Upland space, and have been able to have them on the show and just hear their stories. If you go back to first episode, I think even maybe the intro, you have to submit an intro episode to be approved by the podcast lords. I talk about kind of the reason behind the podcast and kind of why I started this, and I just thought maybe it's a good reminder, just to kind of pause and say, hey, like this podcast was created for blank, and the reason why I started this podcast was kind of bridge that gap between the rookie just getting out there. Yes, it's for rookies. Yes, I think we can benefit from someone, from hearing other stories of people who've been doing it for a while. If you're out there and listening and just getting into upland hunting, or you want to, maybe you haven't yet, or maybe you're picking up your first bird dog, I think this can be a huge benefit. Just hearing stories, just to get, maybe you need a kick in the butt. Maybe you need to hear, how someone got started or why someone got started, why they picked up a bird dog. Talking about training and just having a conversation. So for those rookies out there, I think this is super important. But on the other half of this is for those veterans out there, for those veteran hunters who I've been maybe doing this longer than I've been alive, to be honest with you. I've met some amazing guys and girls at some trials who've been doing this for 20, 30, maybe 40 years even. And what I can take away from them is incredible. But what I think through the podcast, what I've been really encouraged about, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here is the level of excitement that those veterans are getting from the podcast as well. Now, I'll have some people reach out on Facebook or Instagram and just say, hey, I've been at this 25 years and just want to say this kind of lit a fire under me of, just getting me excited again and reminding me why, I started upland hunting or why I got into pointers or GSPs or Brittany's or whatever it might be. And honestly, those are the comments that keep me going. Those are the ones that I just get a big smile on my face and know, okay, if I've done anything, like that's to be able to reignite a passion or to help bring someone back to the moments that they started, or bring them back to their first hunt or their first rooster that they took down, or the first time they saw a dog on point, or the first time they were at a trial, like to bring someone back to those memories and for them to relive those. That's I don't know if it gets better than that for me. Getting hearing the stories from the new people getting into it, absolutely. I love that. I love just sharing stories and having you guys tune in and listen to other people's experiences. I love that too. I think that's incredible, and to grow, just to grow our sport, and I think we need that. We need to inspire new people and be welcoming and open, absolutely. But so I've loved both sides. I've loved seeing those that are new to it, but those that also have been doing this a long time and who can find some inspiration and encouragement, listening to this podcast, let alone find or know what a podcast is. Because there are some people I talk to that have no idea what a podcast is, and that's okay. But we talked to this one guy at a trial last month, and I mentioned something about a podcast. He's like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh gosh, it's like a radio show, kind of." But anyways, so all to say, guys, thank you so much just for spreading the word about the show. I know a lot of you've shared an episode or two on social media, or you write me messages, and I love going back and forth and just learning more about what you guys are going through. Again, I talk to a broad spectrum of people all over the board, of whether you've been doing it for, again, five months or 15 years, everything in between. And so anyways, grateful. Thank you again. Thanks for sharing the show. All that stuff. Thank you. Okay, I will shut up on that now, and we will keep moving forward. I got a couple things to cover before we dive into today's episode. Okay, I covered that. Goals for the off season. I think I talked about goals a little bit last week. I was actually challenged myself. I know I talk about goals all the time. I think they're important. And it hit me of thinking, okay, what's my summer goal with my dogs? I've been doing the trials. I have another trial in May here coming up with Nastra. But thinking through the summer, I haven't actually sat down, to be honest with you, and done my own goals. Like, what am I going to work on with the dogs? And I think I've narrowed it down to a couple things with each dog. Win and Gage. Gage, I actually want to work, two things. One, I want just go through some of the basic steps of force fetch, train retrieve, whatever you want to call it. Go through some of that a little bit, mostly for the hold. There was one or two times, maybe 2 or 3 times actually, in the last trial we did, that he got within maybe like 2 steps of me and dropped the bird. And I think that definitely brought my retrieve score down a couple of those times. So want to work on that hold, just really, waiting until I put my hand out and say give, for him to give it back to me. So that's one thing with Gage I'm going to be working on, just tightening it up a little bit. It was, again, his retrieve was good. It was just a couple times, just towards the very end would drop it. And so just want to tighten that up a little bit. And then the other thing with Gage, is backing. He's never been a natural backer. I can roll him into a back, obviously, but again, for trial purposes, with what I'm running right now is I could up some of his points by doing a back if we have the time to get a back in, if the other dog is on a point. So I'm going to be working on backing with him this summer. I don't know how to train backing, so I'm going to be reaching out to some people, talking about backing and how to work on your dog with that. And so if you have advice on working with backing on a dog who doesn't do it naturally, shoot me a message. Would really appreciate that. And then with Win, gosh, what am I gonna do with Win? Win, I'm very close to, like, her range is there, her style's there. She hunts. She covers ground like no other. So like all the basics are there for what I want in a dog. Again, her range, style, how she covers ground, obedience. Like, she's doing really, really well. She's actually a dog I think with being new with Gage, first dog, I relied on the e-collar a lot with him. And the thing I've noticed with Win and I've done with her is I've just been smarter about the e-collar. I've not used it as much. I've really, really tapered back with what I did with her ever since I got her and since she was young. And what that's done is her obedience, again, she'll make a fool out of me, I'm sure, next time I have her out running. But she's fantastic. I can give 1-2 commands and she'll do a big turn for me and come back and all that stuff. And so I feel really comfortable with obedience, kind of where she's at with that. Again, just thinking back where Gage was at this age, it was just very different. So I don't know. She's just smarter, maybe. I don't know. But so all that to say, like, right now she's where I want her for a foot hunting bird dog, Nastra trial dog. She's where I want her. So that leads me to, I'm very close to wanting to force fetch her this summer. Maybe towards the end of the summer. She'll be a little over 1.5 years, I think. So we'll see. I might pull the trigger on that. I just need to decide if I should wait, because I force fetch Gage, I think he was 2, so I'd be doing it about 6 months earlier again, which I know people who have force fetched a dog way earlier than that. So I think that's where I'm going with her. I want to force fetch because I'd like to get her into some natural trials as well. And so, and again, she'll pick things up once in a while, but again, just not reliable. And so I know she's going to need that force fetch, train retrieve, for sure. So that's kind of where my head's at with her. So you guys kind of know, hold me accountable. That's kind of where I'm headed with my dogs right now. The other big thing, this is not an extra plug for Inukshuk, I promise, but weight management. Last several years, admittedly, I've talked about this before. I actually struggled with my dogs getting too heavy in the off season. And we're about 2 months out of the off season, and I'm happy to say they have maintained great weights throughout this off season. So prior years, I had my dogs, as soon as they stopped exercising, hunting throughout the winter, they put weight on like crazy, Gage especially. But with Inukshuk, it's just been fantastic. Gage is right at that 37 and a half right now, and that is absolutely perfect for him. And so Win the same way. I haven't weighed her in a while, but she looks good, not too heavy, not too thin. So I've been really happy with that. So I want to keep that going through the off season. They're both on the 30-25 formulation right now from Inukshuk, and so that's been working really well for us. No issues with excess weight gain. So that's something I want to keep up throughout the off season. So again, personal goal of mine. Those are personal to me. What are you working on? What are you thinking you're going to be working on with your dog? What are you going to focus on? Is it shooting? Maybe you need to go to the range a little bit more this summer. Is it something with your dog? Is it retrieving? Is it backing? Is it ground cover, obedience, whatever it might be? When I post this episode, maybe drop a comment in the comment section of what you're working on this year. Shoot me a message. We'd love to talk through, kind of hear what you're working on, or your thoughts, questions, whatever it might be. All right. Last thing coming up is I have a giveaway coming up. I can't announce it quite yet. We're working out a couple more details, but it's going to be a pretty sweet giveaway. Hopefully, I'm not going to put a timeline to it, but it's coming up soon. Just have to get the final word when we can pull the trigger to announce it. But stay tuned for a pretty sweet giveaway we got in the works. So this episode, guys, with Courtney Bastian of Bird Dog Babe podcast. I had the best time sitting down with Courtney and learning more about her. I've listened to a few of her episodes, and she does a phenomenal job. Really well done, well produced podcast that she does. And I loved getting to know her more, hearing about her dogs, her stories. I did not know just her wealth of knowledge and experience that she's had in the dog world, from the show ring, trials, all sorts of stuff. So I thoroughly enjoyed this one myself. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy this one as well. So we're going to dive in without further ado to episode 40 of the Upland Rookie Podcast with Courtney Bastian.
It's the Wirehairs are definitely my heart breed. But the Braccos and then the Cocker came along as just a nice addition to what I feel is ideal for what I do right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, we'll definitely get into that a lot more. I'm curious to hear about those. And you are my first guest for the Bracco, so that's pretty exciting.
Exciting, yeah.
So can't wait to hear more. So we'll kind of jump right in. But so Courtney, why don't you put us on the map and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, I am just outside of Missoula, Montana. So I'm in a little town called Potomac. Okay. It's pretty fantastic here. We have no cellular service in a 30-mile radius.
Wow.
We're pretty much off the grid, except for we do have a great internet service. So that's helpful.
That's kind of key when you're doing a podcast and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was tough for a while, but we just got that Starlink. So
nice.
Yeah, so it's very helpful. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Are you just curious? Are you a native of Montana, or did you move there recently? Okay. Yeah.
So I grew up in Wisconsin, lived there until September of 19, and when we moved out here.
Okay. That's awesome. Were you guys just kind of looking for a little change and want to get out west a little more? Or?
Yeah, we were looking to move out west for quite a while, actually. We had both been out here, whether it was for the German Wirehaired Pointer National. We had been out here hunting in Montana a couple times, and it just really resonated with both of us. And I think it ultimately came down to a series of unfortunate events of how we got here, because we were planning on just moving a different place in Wisconsin, but some issues happened when we were trying to buy a new property, and it fell through in any way. And we had lost a dog that week. And I had told my husband, my husband had said, I'd really love us to move to Montana. And I was like, you know what, if you can figure it out, then we'll be there. Cause I just need to be an hour from an airport. And by darn, the amazing man figured it out.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So we love it here though. In September of 19, we moved out here. So it's been a little over 2 years.
That's phenomenal. And it looks like you and your kids and obviously your husband, you all are very active in the outdoors, and whether you guys are hiking or you're training dogs and you got a baby on your back and all that good stuff. And is that just kind of been a way of life and a lifestyle for you growing up, or talk a little bit about getting into hunting and the outdoors for you?
Yeah. Growing up, my dad and my brother, they hunted a lot in Wisconsin. It wasn't something I did. It wasn't that they didn't ask me to go or that I didn't want to go. I think I just really didn't have much interest to it. And they did big game hunting. So it was in college, I had worked for a veterinarian and was dating my now husband. And the vet I worked for had a German Wirehaired Pointer. And when we had kind of discussed getting a dog together, we went through all the different AKC breeds. And I said, oh, I really love that Wirehair that my boss has. And so we got her. And then shortly after, it led to another one. And how it is, like dogs, slope, right? Totally. You know well.
Oh yeah, the rabbit hole is this big, and once you get inside, it's endless.
Yeah. So my first actual bird dog breed was an Irish setter, and I was a sophomore in college. Okay. She was 100% show bred, And that was my intention, was to show her. College got super busy. I worked through that as well and waitressed. So I never actually got a chance to show her. But my husband, when he kind of came into the scene, he had gotten a Weimaraner, and the Weimaraner was gun shy. And so that was interesting.
That's difficult. That's difficult.
It was difficult. Yes.
So, oh no, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so we had gone hunting with the two of them, the Irish setter and the Weimaraner, a couple times. Of course, I just walked with. I didn't have my hunter safety done or anything. And I really enjoyed just taking photos. And the Irish setter, when she would find a bird, which she did, she was very good at finding birds, but she'd get to it and she wouldn't point. She'd just kind of be like, ew, there's a bird over here.
What do I do?
You should probably do something about it. Yeah. And then when the bird would get up and my husband would shoot, the Weimaraner would run away.
Oh, no. Makes for an exciting experience.
Right. So that's when that point came, when him and I sat down and we were like, well, what breed can we get together? And I wanted something I could show and he wanted something he could hunt. And we decided on the Wirehaired. And we had gotten her in 2004. Okay. And 2007, we had our first litter of Wirehairs. Okay. And I especially fell in love with a puppy that we kept. And so I took her through NAVDA. I had kind of looked up some things I could do with her and get my feet wet in that hunting scene. And that first season was kind of what got me into hunting ultimately, is I always loved to go with and take the photos, but my husband had shot her a bird and she brought that bird right to me. And
it's over from there.
It was over. It was all done. I was like, oh, my little girl, she really wants me to do this thing with her. Yeah. And so then that was it.
That's awesome.
I was done.
So it sounds like, backing up a little bit, so when you had the Weimaraner and the Irish setter, it sounds like you were already kind of dipping your toe in the water, right? With hunting, were you kind of just already, your interest was peaked and you wanted to kind of try it out, and then once that Wirehaired came along, that's when it took over? Is that about right?
Yeah. I think, I went with just to watch and kind of learn. It was some college buddies of ours that had some land there. I was at the University of Wisconsin in Platteville, and it was just kind of interesting to me. But it was ultimately that the dog that I had that really made me want to do it myself.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. They have a way of I don't know, doing something that just gets us excited and draws us in a little bit more, I feel.
Right. Yep. It became a little bit of an addiction.
Yeah. Well, then it sounds like, you started breeding pretty soon with your Wirehaired, right? Shortly after. Did it just kind of just take over really quickly? And what was that kind of progression like of going, all right, we have this great dog and let's get and do a litter. Right.
Yeah. And that's actually a question I get often, is like, how do you start a breeding program? How do you know that? Unfortunately, so the Wirehaired we got, our very first one in 2004, while she was a master hunter, a utility dog, a multiple Bastain, blah, 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 show dog, she had epilepsy. She started seizuring at 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so it was really difficult to kind of bite that, like, she has epilepsy, found out it was in her line, and we had her spayed. You recognize, like, there's a lot of great things here, but none of it is more important than the health of the dog. And knowing that if I had to, if we would have bred her and puppies out of her would have had seizures like we had to go through with her. It was difficult, a dog that had accomplished so much, and the pride that I feel like that dog had in herself and what we had in her, to kind of be wasted away in what is the awful experience of watching a dog have a seizure and lose complete control of their entire body.
Yeah.
So
that's gotta be a tough decision still, though, because you love a dog and it has, like you said, it has a lot of great qualities.
Right.
And that's gotta be super tough.
It was. And I think, while we were we were those lucky people where we got fortunate where our very first wire hair did all the things. It was great in the field. It was great in the show ring. But then it was also a massive wake up call, right? To be like, this is something that's hereditary, and you just make a decision. Is what's more important? And man, it's really unfortunate for the breed that she was never able to contribute to it. But it's not something we've pretty, and that's something we've kind of followed along since then, is the ethics and the morale, and knowing that what we produce is something people have to live with. And that was difficult for us to have to live with that.
Yeah, that's a huge wake up call. I mean, I don't think a lot of people think that way, Right. I think, and it might not be as severe as epilepsy. It might be something else. It might be a characteristic or a trait the dog has. And I think a lot of people can just think, oh, that's just a one-off quirk. But I think a lot can. You might probably know a lot more about this, but a lot of things are hereditary and are passed down from generation to generation. So I think it's a good reminder, I think, for everyone, even thinking about breeding or even looking at buying pups.
It is, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of shocking, some of the things that we've learned over the years of what's hereditary, like a dog that can jump a 6-foot fence. Well, their children also jump 6-foot fences, and no other dog does that. It's those little things, but it's also the big things that you just have to be mindful of and just think, is this worth it?
Yeah. So since we're kind of on the breeding side right now, so taking that experience that you had, like what did you kind of look and do differently, like going forward? Did you do other litters with some other wire hairs?
Yeah. So our first litter, we were fortunate. We've had a couple longtime breeders in the wire hairs that really respected kind of the efforts that we were putting into the breed. And they kind of felt our heartbreak and what had happened, and they allowed us to lease a female, and we started with her as our foundation. So, I mean, I think just keeping in mind all the things of course, it was a wake-up call of healthy dogs is priority above all. And wire hairs, you have a lot of different factors. You have to start deciding on what you want to do, their coats, like there's a big thing with coat quality. And I think the more we got involved with hunting, the more important those characteristics and those breed aspects of the German Wirehair Pointer came into place, where it's pertinent to have a really harsh, tight coat, because in Wisconsin, we had those thick burdocks, the dogs that had the coats. I mean, we'd be carrying a comb in our pocket, and they would literally just shut down if they had it in their beard, and it'd be attached to their eyebrow, close their entire eye shut. So you'd have to comb it out.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And like you said, you don't realize that really until you're in it more and with them. And
Exactly. Wow. And you realize, like, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot more hunting than I am with showing, and the priorities really started changing. And while I personally, my husband and I are very much a 50-50 in everything breeding dogs is concerned, because he likes a very specific mentality and work ethic in the dogs, where, when I evaluate them, I like a really well structured, put together dog. So,
that's probably really good. That's probably a really good balance for you two then.
I mean, it sounds like that on the outside, but we don't always agree. Yeah. So that's why we usually keep 2 puppies from every litter.
Okay.
And then we grow them up. And then when they get to be like around a year old, it's like, okay, well, which puppy wins? Is it the one that had the better conformation at 8 weeks old, or the one that had the better hunting traits?
That's good.
Yeah.
So you got compromised, kind of. You got a system.
We do. And there was a couple of years in there where he really enjoyed doing the horseback field trials.
Okay. So
that brought in, another completely, I wouldn't say completely different aspect, but another aspect of the breed, and the drive and the temperament. So that was really interesting. Another
layer to look through, and what your range and all that kind of stuff.
It is. But now I feel like, so our first litter was in 2007. So now that we're into it 15 plus years. Am I doing the right math? Well, I don't know.
Sure. I'm not a numbers guy.
Let's go with it.
That sounds great. That sounds great to me.
But yeah, I think we're finally like, at the point where we just like a well-rounded, versatile dog that is going to give us a really good day out in the field.
Absolutely. I can't ask for much more than that.
Exactly.
You touched on this a little bit. So I think you mentioned it with your first Wirehaired, taking him through NAVDA, correct? And Master Hunter and all that kind of stuff. Was that something that was totally new to you guys getting into, that you had to kind of learn and figure out? Or did you have any knowledge, I guess, going into it? Or
no, not really. So with our first Wirehaired, my husband took her completely through the AKC hunt test scene. Okay. He did that with her. And then I was actually the one that kind of found or fell upon the NAVDA system and took her to a couple training days. And I tested her in that. And I remember, I was a complete novice. And I mean, for people that know me, like I wear sandals year round. And I remember going down to the water portion of the natural ability test in my sandals. And man, those judges, they gave me a really hard time. Are you going to be hunting in those sandals, Courtney, this fall? I go, actually, awesome. I probably will.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hey, there's no rules against it.
So I was a complete novice. And as far as NAVDA, there wasn't really a mentor there. We just kind of learned the ropes of that.
Yeah.
And then we were in the German Wirehaired Pointer Club of Wisconsin, and they taught us a lot and really brought us along with the hunt test portion of things.
Okay. That's awesome. Are you still pretty active in NAVDA or hunt tests right now with your current dogs, or where are you kind of at with that stuff?
Yeah, I would say we're almost at 100% NAVDA only right now.
Okay.
In Wisconsin, we were spoiled. We had all of those venues. We had horseback field trials. We had AKC hunt tests. We had the NAVDA all within 30 to 45 miles of our house. And it was easy. Here in Montana, it's the same thing as confirmation as dog shows. You drive 8 hours to get to any of that.
That's tough.
It is. And it's just limiting. Whereas our NAVDA chapter, we train 30 miles away. So right away when we came here, we became lifetime members of our chapter.
Nice.
We're like,
you're locked in.
We're locked in and loaded. We're doing this. But everything else, it's just difficult to get to. And I think if I have 8 hours of driving time, and I have that ability of that free time, I'm going to be spending it at home with my family.
Yeah.
Instead of going to those competitive venues. And I feel like we're at a place right now in our breeding program where I don't need an AKC show champion to prove that I have properly structured dogs. And I don't need, some of those more competitive venue titles either to do that. I think where we are, we can recognize that and breed for exactly what we want and what we have here, which is actually a completely different type of dog than what we had in Wisconsin because of the terrain.
And that just changes geographically and the type of hunting you're doing and birds you're chasing, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that was a wake up call too, because, we had, I think we have like the highest number of champion master hunters or champion utility dogs in the Wirehaired breed, and which, kind of shows some great dual or versatile purpose dogs. But the titles are one thing. And in Wisconsin, we had plots, and we hunted rough grouse a lot in northern Wisconsin. So we took about 3.5 hours to get there. We do it several times each year. We actually would rent a cabin for a month and hunt them. And we thought we really had some, dogs that could do amazing things anywhere in the world, right?
Sure, of course.
And then we came out here to Montana, and, you need it. I shouldn't say you need, but it's more ideal to have a different type of dog here. I know, like when I started conditioning our dogs before the hunting season, that first year, I blew a bunch of their pads apart because just the gravel, the rocks,
Sure.
Wisconsin grass is like carpet,
Sure. It's just like running on pillows for these dogs.
It is. Yeah. It is. It's beautiful. It's beautiful country there. But it's just it's so different here to have, a little bit more of a leaner or finer dog that is really going to keep moving and have that endurance throughout the day. Yeah. Would maybe be more ideal than the heavier bone dogs that, would excel in the show ring and as a personal gun dog in different parts of the country. So
absolutely. I want to go back to one thing you brought up. And I was just having this conversation with a buddy of just that balance of your family, hunting, and then the competitive side. Cause I'm kind of getting into that, some Nastra stuff now and some field trials. It's really fun. It's really exciting. But like you said, it's like, I also love just taking my dogs and going to hunt. I love my family and kids sports and all these things now that add up. And I guess my question for you is not on the paper, just came to my head. Do you think there's I don't know how to say, do you think there's an overemphasis on some of the AKC trials for dogs? Like, is that something people do? You think if they're going to breed, they want a couple titles on their dogs? Do you think there's an overemphasis on that stuff? Or
I don't know that there's overemphasis. I do like the validity in it. I do appreciate that the dog has proven itself to do something.
Sure.
Because to have let's say, so, like you said, AKC, so like having a junior hunter versus a senior hunter, that's a big step. Mm-hmm. And then going to the master hunter, a lot of dogs, I used to feel like any bird dog should be able to find a pointed bird, right? Sure. In a junior hunter level. A senior hunter takes advanced work. It takes pressure. It takes obedience. It takes an intelligent dog. It takes grit. So not every dog has that. So for me as a breeder, it's something that I do put a lot of emphasis in, just to validate that the dog can do the work. Overemphasized in only maybe advertising that aspect of the dog versus, because I know a lot of master hunters that have never seen a wild bird in their life. Right.
Sure.
So, and there's a big difference there. I have an avid versatile champion master hunter. She's my world, but man, she really struggles. Like last season, she struggled on wild birds. So you can have all the titles, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have, the best bird dog.
Yeah. It's like the ideal dog would be having someone that does really well in the trial side of things, but also does really well in wild birds and right. For them to make that transition easily, I think would be pretty cool to have. And you said too, I mean, again, you've been doing this breeding for 15 years, we'll say, if our math is right. I don't know. and so do you think it's probably a little bit more important? Let's say if someone's just starting out with a breeding program or a kennel, maybe, you think it's a little more important when you're starting out to have some of those titles?
I think it helps. Absolutely. It helps as a novice, because I know with our first litter, the dam was what'd she have? I think she was just a show champion. I don't think she even had a junior hunter. The sire or maybe had a junior hunter, but that doesn't really convince the hunting population, right? You're going to catch the people that go, I just want a German Wirehair pointer.
Sure.
And then you'll be able to find homes that way. But if you want your puppies in homes where people are really going to try to find out what that dog's potential is, you're going to be able to find a different crowd. And we're at that point now where, we do want to see that. We do want to see these dogs through as much potential as they can, as much as good homes, are as well. But we're in a position where we have a waiting list that's maybe a couple of years long, because we didn't even have a litter last year. Life happens, and
Sure.
It's more important to get with my husband training full time. It's important that he's available and doing that 100%. And when work came back for me after all the COVID stuff, I traveled quite a bit. So it just wasn't in the cards to have a litter.
Yeah. It's a balance, and things, change and things need to adapt and all that. So I get it.
Yeah. But the titles, they're important.
Yeah.
They're important, but I don't think that they are the end all either.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people do put too much look into, if the dog hasn't accomplished anything, it's not great. And that's also a big reason why when we, like any male that we've ever bred to, except for the very first dog, we've either personally hunted over, or we have watched that dog at a field trial, at hunt test, because like I said earlier, titles mean one thing, but unless you see that dog work on birds, it's hard to decide what it really has.
Absolutely. And that's probably one of the best things is for you to personally put eyes on it and see, okay, what am I looking for as a breeder, and what do I want these pups to be? So that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah. Spend time with them. Yeah. And in our breed with the Wirehairs, temperament is huge too. So, can the dog be mixed with other dogs or not?
Oh, sure. Because Wirehairs do they have a little tendency? I've heard they can be aggressive.
Yeah. I don't, aggressive isn't really what I would call it. I think some are. Yeah, I think some are generally. Sure. It's not tolerated here, and they wouldn't remain in our breeding program if they had, because, it's important that the kids are 100% with them. Sure. And so it wouldn't be tolerated. But it's a breed that really likes to, when they're going out hunting, be prepared to come back with fur. They won't hesitate to take a raccoon out or a possum.
Little bonus.
Right. When we moved into our neighborhood after we graduated from college, there was a lot of lost cat signs put up on the telephone poles. So
not your dog.
we just looked at him and said, well, it was really unfortunate event. Yeah.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
I'm so sorry.
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It happens. But that's not aggression, right? That's not aggression.
No,
that's just,
that's
I appreciate that.
And hunting.
Right.
They're right. They were, correct me if I'm wrong, they were bred to hunt both fur and feathers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
land and water, fur and feather.
They're just doing what they're supposed to.
Yeah. They are the Land Rover of bird dogs.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Maybe a good episode title. We'll see.
There we go.
Very cool. So when you just kind of think back a little bit of your journey getting into hunting and uplands and bird dogs and all that stuff, what was maybe like just the hardest part or the biggest takeaway or biggest learning that you just thinking back in your time getting into this? Again, it could be hunting or bird dogs, either one.
Yeah. Hunting, I'm always learning with hunting. I'm 13 years into it, and moving here to Montana, I feel like it's been 90% of learning something of what I didn't even know before. The bird identification, which, I had an incident this year, and there's so much, the terrain, the rough grouse, the way they act in the Midwest versus how they act here. It's so different. And with the bird dogs, I think the toughest thing for me was I fall in love with every puppy that is born in our house, every single one of them. Taking them to the airport and, sending them off is difficult, but really I would say the most difficult of all of it is having that dog, and at 12 months old, realizing it's not going to be the best dog in a breeding program. You love it. Your kids love the dog. Sure. And it's not better than what you already have. And being able to have that mentality to separate yourself from that kind of different mindset.
Yeah.
Of knowing if there's going to be space in my house for another dog.
It's got to, you have an expectation. It's got to meet that expectation.
It's got to meet it. Absolutely. Yeah. It's got to meet it. And that was hard for me. Then back in 2010, I think that was the first time I had to make that decision of a dog. She was my show champion. She was a master hunter, a utility prize too. She had 2 teeth that were off. Oh, and wow. Yeah. And then we had her litter mate that had also accomplished all of that and had a perfect bite. And so you decide, do I need the same genetics in both of these girls? Or do I just continue on with the one that is going to hopefully produce better? Sure. And she still did gain her show champion with 2 teeth off. So,
oh wow, okay. That's cool.
Yeah, is it cool? I don't know. It kind of tells you a little bit about the AC confirmation, doesn't it?
Either that or the rest of her was just perfect.
She was. But so that was difficult, trying to keep that mentality of the dogs that you love. Which ones stay, which ones go. That's still difficult for me. And I don't know that it's ever going to get easier.
Yeah. But yeah, just acknowledging that's really, really valuable advice, I think, for anyone considering or breeding or anything like that. I think that's really, really good advice. So
you only have so much room, right?
You do. You got
and love to share. And you want to make sure each of your dogs are getting the optimal amount of training, attention, love, and everything you can provide. So,
is that in the room, and also like you mentioned already, it's almost bettering the breed of, okay, is this really? Do we want to pass this? It might be small in some people's eyes, but do we want to pass that down to other generations? So it's all that to consider. So that's really good.
Right.
I love that. Let's talk about some of the other dogs that you have. So you also have a Bracco Italiano, right? And a little cocker. So let's talk maybe Bracco first. You're my first guest with a Bracco on this podcast. So.
Well, they're pretty amazing. So you should do more guests that have Braccos.
Would love to. Would love to. So you had the German Wirehair. So what led you to a Bracco?
Well, I was actually out at a dog show in 2009 in California. So I had taken a dog that we had imported out there to see kind of what he had against all the top dogs in the country. And they had this world championship competition. And all the lights were down in the stadium, and the spotlight comes on this white and orange dog that just comes around, into this. Oh, I'm still getting goosebumps because do you see that, Will? Do you see my goosebumps?
I think I can.
And
wow, you're setting the stage for this. This is pretty epic right now.
It's such an image. It will never fade. I hope it never fades. But this dog comes into this ring and he was just wide open. There was this trot where his front and his rear legs were just in parallel motion.
Wow.
And it was huge. It was beautiful. It was effortless. I think everybody there that saw this dog, their jaws are dropping, and then
it gets better.
It gets better because I found out that this dog points birds.
So originally you were like, oh, that's a great dog, but you didn't.
That's a beautiful dog, right? It's a beautiful dog.
The plot thickens.
Yes, but then when they said the breed, and so of course I'm on my phone and I'm Googling what the breed is, and then I see it points birds. My husband hadn't heard the end of it since that day.
That is awesome.
So yeah, I did a lot of research. It's very difficult to find, just with any breed, right? Of a dog or breeders that put as much emphasis into field and hunting as they do into the structure of a dog. So I'm a big structure nerd. My husband's like, it's gotta hunt or I'm not going to feed it. He doesn't say that, but it's similar to that mentality.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it took 6 years. I attended a couple Bracco nationals, saw some dogs, did a lot of research in that time. And I found a breeder that I really clicked with. And she was over in England, and got my first Bracco from her. And now I'm on my third.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I have my first Bracco litter hopefully due in 8 weeks.
Oh, so. Wow. Pretty soon.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yes.
So so talk to me a little bit, because I literally know probably zero about the Bracco. Just tell me a little bit, like, I guess, temperament, how they hunt, what their range is like, generally for a typical Bracco.
Yeah. So the breed is super, goofy. And I think a lot of people might be able to say that about their breed, but these guys, I know I've never gone to the bathroom by myself since I've had a Bracco, because they need to be with you every second of the way, right? You can probably relate it to children. Yes,
totally.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like a child, but it's a Bracco, and they don't want to leave your side. You think that they're in a deep sleep on the couch, and you get up to get a water and they're like right there. But they have a great balance of, confidence, but also cooperation, reliability. We walk the dogs every day. We go hiking, and the Wirehairs are kind of sometimes like, oh, piss off. Right. And you can call her name and they just completely ignore you.
Yeah.
You sometimes have to nick them with a collar to get them to come back. A Bracco, you can just say, oh, come here. And they're like, oh, okay, sure. Happy to. So you don't need to, like, a lot of dogs, you need to put an actual recall on a dog. Like, that's a thing. And a Bracco, you don't need to put a recall on. They just do it. They're automated recallers.
Are they just very people centric?
They are.
Sounds like, okay.
They are, but it's also important to keep them super happy, train with, you can't be hard handed. You can't take them through a specific regimen training program. They're different. They need to have lots of praise. And know that they're doing things right. They want to please you. They really, really want to please you. And I had actually someone messaged me the other day. She has Vizslas, and she wanted to know how Braccos were different from a Vizsla. I said, not too much. They're very, from the Vizslas that we've had, at least for training, they're very similar. They're confident. They're happy to do the work. They want to do the work. They want to do it because they adore you so much. And they have great temperaments with every dog. They've never met a stranger. It's a nice thing to have, because Wirehairs don't always like to have other dogs with them. So it's different. And hunting with them, I can't say I have that. I'm not an expert on the breed by any means. I only have my third one. But I have two females and one male, and my male works a lot different than what my two females do. So I can't say this is how they hunt, because my females have been closer, and my male, he's really, he's further out there. He can just super, I don't know. I love it. I love it because kind of that trot, like I was explaining, when I saw my first one, that big wide open gate. So, they do that, or they're supposed to do that, the whole time in the field. And they don't tire. And that is something that I do notice. So like this past year in September, the first weekend out, really hot, like 85, 90 degrees. And I took a Bracco and two Wirehairs with, and the Wirehairs don't do well in heat the way it is. And they'll come back and they'll want their water. And the Bracco, he can go a long time and just not tire. Wow. And he has that effortless movement. I think like a Wirehair will hit the field, they'll sprint out and they'll not really understand how to keep that endurance for hours and hours and hours.
Sure.
And a Bracco can just go all day.
Wow.
And the way they're built, it's a really, I think it's a perfect combination of the Bracco and the Wirehaired. Because then wintertime comes and the Bracco isn't just, they're not as a strong breed. In January, man, it's cold.
Yeah.
And
so that's when the Wirehairs are going to excel a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. The Wirehairs that, they're getting inside those cattails. They're breaking through the ice. They're doing the things and they're going all day, where the Bracco's like, oh man, Mom, it's getting a little chilly.
Yeah. We head back to the truck.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to go in those cattails right now. So
with the Braccos, at least, and this is kind of a general question. You've been around dogs a long time. So you said your females, they just work a little bit differently than your male. Do you attribute that to a female male thing, or just a dog, just the differences of the dogs?
I think the differences of the dogs. And the only reason I can say that is because I've been to a couple of nationals. I've, walked a lot of braces of a hunt test. I've seen them at NAVDA events. There's been a couple Braccos that, man, they've really blown my mind. And I've hunted over a couple of them personally. It's been great, but I don't notice a difference that it's between male versus female. I think it's a difference of how they're bred.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. And how big are your Braccos, at least? So they can be pretty large, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know the weights on them. I'm so bad with, are we back at that numbers thing, Will? Because
we don't have to be. You can guesstimate. It works pretty well.
I don't know. I want to say my females are 60 and maybe the males like 67, 70.
Okay. That sounds big as I thought. When I see some Braccos, I look at them, I'm like, holy crap, those are big.
Yeah.
that's not too big.
Yeah, you're right though. I've seen a lot of big ones too. And I don't know that, I think I would say mine are just maybe moderate.
Okay.
But there exciting. Are some pretty big ones that.
Yeah. So you got your first litter due in 8 weeks, you said, right?
Yes. Hopefully. Okay. We'll see. Ultrasound in 3 weeks. So.
Okay. Very nice. All right. Let's bring in the last dog to the mix here.
Yeah.
The Cocker.
Yeah.
The Cocker Spaniels they are just like flying off the shelf.
They are.
It is crazy, but tell us a little bit about your Cocker and why'd you throw into those in the mix? I personally threw it in because of the rough grouse season I had last year. Oh wow.
It's a thick cover along the riparian areas. I did, not that I'm proud of it, because I think you're at a certain point in your hunting journey. You shouldn't be shooting them out of a tree limb, but last year I did. I shot a couple off the tree limb. And
I just want to take a quick pause and thank Pointer Traditions for their support of the podcast. Hey, how are your leashes looking? How are your dog collars looking? Your leads looking? If they're looking a little worn out, look no further than pointertraditions.com. You'll save 15% by using code ROOKIE15. That's ROOKIE15. Save you 15% off your entire order at pointertraditions.com, making the finest dog collars on the market with a free customized nameplate with every collar.
And I noticed after twice that I did that with my dog, that he was literally starting to look up in the trees. And I just thought
with your Bracco or your Wirehaired? Okay.
The Bracco. Yeah. Yep. Because I had put him through a training scenario on a duck search. Mm-hmm. I shot a duck really close in front of him and he had shied away from it. And so I had thought, okay, this whole season, I'm just not going to focus on any further training of pushing this dog into trying to be a utility by the time he's 2 years old. Sure. I just want to make sure he's getting birds and he's in his mouth and he's retrieving. Sure. And it did, it worked, but essentially I shouldn't have been doing it the way I did it. It was a bad call.
Gotcha.
But I wanted a little flushing dog to kind of be that, third leg.
Okay.
Where you have the Wirehaired that excels in the winter. You have the Bracco that excels in the warm months, and they're both good in their own means. But you still don't have the little dog that can kind of get in there in that thick stuff and shorter, the shorter cover that the birds were sitting in right here. And so, yeah, I added her in, and she's a little dynamite.
Everyone says that. Everyone just raves about him.
Yeah. I was going between a cocker and a boykin for quite a while.
Okay.
And essentially it really just came down to the size. The cocker is a little smaller than the boykin is. And she's really easy to just get up and go with.
Yeah.
And she's a perfect complement. She's great with the wire hairs, and she's great with the Braccos.
That's awesome. And have you trained them, or are you training them? So your pointing dogs will point, and then you send the flusher in. So that
you know what? Ideally, that would be great. She's 9 months old.
Oh, so she's young. Okay.
I don't have her there yet. Yeah, okay. I don't have her there, and I was focusing a lot in those early months on the obedience. I was really pushing that with her. And it wasn't really until late season, the last 2 months, that I really let her go and bird hunt. And I had noticed the first time I took her out without any bird exposure here, because typically, we're throwing pigeons and we have chucker here. And I didn't do any of that with her because I really wanted to focus on her obedience. And so I got her out there that first time in the grouse woods, and she was kind of like, this is great. What am I doing though? Are we going for a walk? And so I came home and started doing some bird work with her because I didn't get into any birds that day. Oh. And then she really turned it on. Then she started searching. So I'm learning. I'm learning myself every day. I don't have the answers. Yeah. But you have some people that say if they're only on wild birds, they're going to be great dogs. And, if you have them on planted birds you're going to cause issues. Yeah. And I don't know what the answer is. This is my first flushing dog. Sure. I'm trying to do the right things. I hope I don't ruin her. But she sits really well. She stays and she places well. That's great. And she heals. So I'm hoping, this next season, I would really like her to be in that combination of when the dogs go on point and sending her in for the flush. But we'll see. I don't want to put that pressure on any of the dogs.
Totally. No, she's a great looking dog for sure. It's that classic little cocker. And some of the videos you posted, she's a little fireball.
She is. She's my little nugget. Her original name was Esther, but I'm like, that's way not okay for your face. No. Yeah. So we call her Midge. Some days she's Smidget.
She has makeup stuff as you're.
Yeah. She just going. Gets her own name because she's just such a little personality. She's a riot. The kids love her, and that's awesome. That's kind of a bonus too, is my daughter's 4 years old. And so she's just sure that Midge is her dog. And,
100%. It's more her size and just cuddle up with her.
Yeah, she's so easy. But then she's like, I want Midge to sleep in bed. And so Midge lays in bed with her and she just runs circles around the bed. I'm like, okay, are you done now? Are you good?
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you show any of your Bracco or your wire hairs at all still, or no?
Yeah. Oh, you do? I have. Yeah. At our national. So I try to go to our national every year. I think it's important to attend those national events. I get to do some research on stud dogs I like and might be interested in the future. And it's great to know kind of where the breed is at, some health concerns, and they offer the confirmation and hunt test there.
That's cool.
So
it sounds like you've mentioned this a couple of times, but it sounds like you have a very high emphasis on confirmation. I personally haven't heard a lot of that. I hear a lot of maybe more like your husband's, like bird hunting and drive and all this stuff, which it's all very, very important, but you don't hear a lot of that high emphasis on the confirmation. I think that's key. You need to have a well-built, structured dog.
Yeah, it's important because they can fall apart. if they have a straight rear, straight front, the ACL, the last thing you want is to have that cruciate repair and have to do it's a lot of that. The majority of that is from structure. It's not from falling in a hole or, so it's important. It meets the breed standard. And, I don't know, maybe I put too much emphasis into it, but I think, like NAVDA is a great system. It's a system that is on testing, but it's not, there are no breed standards in NAVDA. So it's up to us as the breeders to take into consideration what characteristics the breed is meant to have. There's wire hairs that don't have coat, for example. So there's no furnishings where they actually look like a short hair, but they are a wire hair. And so, yeah, it's that stuff that's just, I think, is important for the breed and moving forward.
Yeah.
I like a good structured dog. And when they 100%. I just think that they last longer in the field. And, like I said, my husband and I butt heads over it sometimes on what's more important. And he really wants to get a pointer himself. He's wanted a pointer for a long time. And I'm like, well, is it going to have a really nice, proper pointer head?
Sure.
Not a snipey one? Or he's like, I don't know. It's going to hunt and it's going to have, he's like, it's going to have a 12 o'clock tail. I'm like, well, but they really shouldn't have 12 o'clock tails because if their tail set is like this and then their croup is, he's like, so yeah, we just don't.
That's fascinating. Oh man.
We're not necessarily on the same pages.
Yeah. So. That's so funny. I like that. And I mean, they're just prettier to look at too. I mean, when you get a dog that just, when you look at it, you're like, oh man, that just looks like a Brittany or a Bracco or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You get the warm fuzzies.
I like the saying, life's too short to hunt over an ugly dog.
Yes. Okay. Agreed. I've heard that. That's
there we go. And I guess we each have our own definition of what is a good looking dog. Yeah. But yeah, I do. I like pretty things. I have pretty horses. I have pretty goats, and I just bought a couple of pretty pigs yesterday.
Oh, that's exciting.
If pigs can be pretty, they are.
That's exciting. You got a little farm going on there.
We do. Yeah.
Do you guys have chickens yet?
We do. Yes.
Okay, nice.
Yes, we have. But yes, we have a rooster that needs to be thrown in the rotisserie right now. He tagged me last week. So he's needs to be all done here.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, we are working on trying to do some of that homesteading stuff. And and I
cool.
like it. I like
cool.
it.
We have.
Yeah, we'd probably be able to. Go ahead.
Oh no! Go ahead.
I was going to say, we'd probably be able to do better at the self-sustaining if we hunted big game here in Montana, like normal people do, instead of birds. But here we are.
That's like Colorado. It's everyone's here for elk and mule deer, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm hunting birds over here.
I know. They're like, you drew an antelope tag. You're so lucky. I'm like, yeah, I went out there though, and it's just like, this is too good of an area to not want to take my dogs and hunt birds instead.
Right. Totally. Like I run into someone, like, I hunt. Like, oh yeah, well, what unit you going to? You hunt? What tags you put? I'm like, oh, I just hunt birds up in the mountains. Like, oh, what do you hunt? They're so confused. Oh, that's awesome. Yep. Couple more things here. You touched on, so you have a couple kids, I know. Just talk about the involvement that you have with them and getting them in the outdoors and hiking and all that stuff. I think that's a really cool, I love to see that just from a young age, getting kids involved. Is that something that is just kind of a personal goal with you and your husband, or what's around that?
Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is a goal. And it was one of the main reasons why we actually moved to Montana, just for the ability of more wild places to explore. And, people ask me a lot, like, what are some tips to take a kid hunting? And, I think the most important part is don't focus on just hunting season. Get them outdoors all the time, teach them about all the things, and it helps. Like here we have the dusky grouse or blue grouse, like some people like to call it, right in the back, about less than a mile away, and we're climbing those mountains with the kids year round, whether we have a gun in hand or not. The dogs and the kids are with us, and we're exploring and trying to find the different habitat. We pick up a lot of litter on that hill.
Again, fun activity for kids to do.
Yes.
Who can find the most trash?
It is. Who can fill their bag first? I think it's just that appreciation, though, and having those conversations of, like they get used to picking up their bedrooms here, but why do we have to pick up after other people? Well, let me tell you why we're picking up after other people, because they're not doing it themselves, but with us doing it, it's going to be better for you. So that's awesome. I think you have to grow that in them and teach them the whys. And, I love this age. My son's 7 and my daughter's 4. And so they're both very much in that why
everything.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And you want to, I get so torn because there's things where I'm like, do I really want to push this, like, dog breeding and dog training and life on them, where they think dogs are just so much because, we don't get to go on vacations because we have the dogs here. And I don't want them to be burnt out by that. And I also want them to have that growing desire in their hearts of maybe, doing that themselves one day. So I do get torn. When Burke had a bad report one time, my husband's like, well, we should have him, pick up all the dog poop in the yard. I'm like, oh, I don't want to make it a punishment of a dog thing. Sure. So yeah,
it's a fine balance. It's a fine balance.
It is. I mean, I'm sure you can relate too, where you want your kids to enjoy the things you do, but I think the biggest reward is when they ask you and when they can notice. And after one of my hunts this last year, my son had said, Mom, I know we didn't get any birds today, but I really hope you mark this spot on your Onyx maps and that we come back here, because the fact that he can, I know, like the fact that he can kind of put all that together and understand it. He's like, it's not about getting birds, it's about the hunt. And we had a good time. And the dogs really, they went through that water really well. And he's like, when teaching them the different, like identifying the rose hips. And my daughter, cool. She's so funny. She wakes up first thing in the morning, 5 a.m. and she'll go, Mom, let's go hunting today. and you can't turn that down.
No,
right?
You cannot.
You cannot turn that down.
That is fantastic.
But a 4-year-old, they're not going to walk all day.
Right.
So I do throw her on the backpack, and it's weighted out, it's balanced really well. So it's not a problem.
Sure.
But for her thing, she really geeks out over the crops of birds. Oh. So she likes to study what they were eating.
Oh, wow. Is the 4-year-old?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. And my son's kind of like, oh, that's so weird. Why would you want to do that? And she's in there tearing it apart and pulling it out. And
that's cool though. Just again, consistent exposure. Like you said, not just during hunting season, but hey, let's go take the dogs for a walk or a hike or something like that. And they get to, just experience that consistently and get to learn what, and your son knows what onyx is. And that becomes a part of the daily habits. Yeah.
It's got to be rewarding for them. I think when we're taking them out, it has to be realistic. We're not going to be able to get into that thick stuff today because I have my daughter on my back and she really gets mad at me when the sticks get slammed into her face. Yeah. But hopefully the dog will be able to get in there and the bird will come out our way. So
totally. I took my twins a couple times. I've used the backpack with training dogs and stuff in the off season. And it's just super, like once they get a little heavier, it's just like the shoulder straps are uncomfortable. It's just not, I think we have like one of the Osprey backpacks or something.
Yeah. Holy cow, Will, do you have two in your backpack at once?
Oh, sorry, just one of the twins.
Okay.
Sorry.
You are hardcore.
Oh no. I guess technically I could do like a baby carrier.
You can do front. Yeah.
Maybe I'll try that this year. We'll see. But the baby backpacks are so uncomfortable. As I was joking with Matt Davis of the Final Rise, I was like, dude, that vest is so comfortable. I was like, you need to make a baby carrier version of this.
He's been told.
It's more comfortable.
He's been told.
It's way more comfortable than these freaking baby carriers.
Yeah. I actually sent him my Osprey pack.
Did you? I did too.
Yeah,
I
did. Like 2 years ago, I sent it to him and awesome. He kind of studied it up. But I'm still waiting. I don't know if I'll need to be wearing it next year or not. But I think for the future.
Let's keep pressuring him because
yes.
I sent him a video one day. I was like, dude, we did a hike or something as a family. I'd send him a video. I'm like, this is not cutting it.
Nope. We need shell pockets and somewhere to put that bird.
100%. Last couple things as we wind down here. I always like to ask everyone thinking about the rookie uplander out there, someone who, this spring they're getting excited. Maybe they just got a bird dog. Maybe they're going into their first season of hunting here coming up. What's some advice that you would give them? Someone just starting out.
Just get out and do it. Just do it.
And do it. Okay.
Yeah. Don't overanalyze it. Don't try to put too much into it. Get yourself a gun and some shells and get your dog out there and just go do it.
That's good.
I think too many times we overthink it, and I know I do. And
100%. I'm with you.
Yeah. Just do it. I mean, make sure, grab your Onyx, make sure you're on, property that you should be and just go do it. Don't let other things keep you from doing it.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Courtney. So last section we'll end with is the rapid fire round. And so I'm just going to ask you a few questions and just give me your off the cuff answer. Okay. Expand if you need to. Some of these things I'll ask you why. So
am I supposed to do it quickly?
Okay. Yes. Generally, yes.
It's
kind of like just like your initial reaction, what you would say. I'm not timing you here. So,
okay.
Okay. So first one, what gun are you carrying out into the field and why?
My go-to is a Siren 20 gauge Tempiolite. And why? Because it's super lightweight. I had a torn rotator cuff in high school from a sport. Oh. And so carrying weight has always kind of been a difficult thing for me. And having that lightweight gun, even though I know it packs a little bit more of a punch, if you're doing multiple rounds, it's, I love carrying it and I like to go all day. So the last thing I want is to be taking extra weight out there with me. I love that gun. I love that gun. I shot a different one for 10 years and, having it resize and cut down. It was a semi-auto and everybody knew when I was in the woods, my husband would say, we always hear the boom, 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 3 shots. And
is this Siren? Is it I don't know much about the company. Is it an over under?
It is. It's an over and under. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Nice.
So it's, so Siren, it's a women's shotgun line, from the Cesar Guarini and Fab Arm.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yep. Oh, it's already fit for you right out of the box.
Oh, that's awesome. I was actually going to ask you if it was a women's model or okay.
Yep.
That's great. Very cool. Next one, favorite dog breed. This will be hard for you because you have 3 different breeds. Favorite breed besides the ones you own.
Besides the 3 I have?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Probably a, well, I call them mini Aussies, but I think the technical AKC term is miniature American Shepherd.
Okay.
I don't know what it is about those little dogs.
That's a first. That's a first for the podcast. You heard it here first, folks.
But I feel like maybe at some point I need one of those to, to keep my goats and my chickens and my pigs all
working
in a
dog.
Yep. Yeah. And I tell my husband, I've told him that before, but he's not buying it. It's like, it needs to find birds, but, I don't know. I think that would be great I like to ride a lot in the summer on my horses, and taking one of those little guys with and doing stuff would be super fun, but they're cute.
Yeah, they are. They got the They almost look like they have no tail, right? Because it's docked pretty short.
Yeah.
They're cool.
There's no tail. Yeah.
Cool. They have I think it might have been ESPN a couple months ago. There was like a herding dog competition. They were showing on ESPN. It was fascinating. Like these dogs would herd, I think, herds of sheep.
Yep.
I was like glued to that. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah. They do trials with sheep and ducks. It's super cool.
Yeah.
It's super cool. They lay down and
they like get real low and
I mean, I appreciate a good working dog regardless of the breed.
Yeah.
But I mean, bird dogs have my heart, but I love a good working dog. And if I had like a big flock of sheep or something,
that'd be cool.
I'd definitely have like 3 of those little dudes.
I could see you getting some sheep someday.
Don't tell my husband.
Yeah.
I may or may not have them ordered.
I can edit that out if you want me to.
You know what I say? I go, oh, well, it's for the kids when they're in 4-H. That's why they need to do this. It's really good for them. It's
educational.
It's development.
It's experience.
I'm so glad you're on the same page.
I get it. Don't worry.
So glad.
Oh, so good. All right. Couple more here. Favorite bird to hunt and why?
Favorite bird to hunt. Sharptail. Probably sharptail. Everything about them. They're challenging. They make the really cool sounds, and man, they're delicious. Really delicious.
Agreed.
Yeah. I love me some sharptail. They're my favorite to eat. My favorite to hunt. I love them. The dogs. I love the way the dogs work them. I get some of my best dog work out of sharptail. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Sharptail.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. 2 more. Beverage of choice after a hunt.
Yeah, that's kind of like a little tradition for my husband and I.
Do share.
Yeah, we do Blue Moon, but it has to have a slice of orange in it.
Oh, okay. So that's like classic Blue Moon. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Classic. That's our thing. We get back to the dog trailer at night and, man, it's great to crack one of those for sure.
So what happens if one of you forgot to pack the orange?
Oh, it's not usually great. We make it work. Right.
Okay.
But it's like having a hunting breed out there. That's not your dog breed of choice. So
it's not the same.
You get by.
You get by. Is it as enjoyable? Maybe not, but
maybe not. Probably, most likely not.
I'm from Chicago, and in Chicago, I feel Blue Moon was bigger there for some reason. Mm-hmm. Out here in Colorado, I don't know. I mean, they have it at some places, but it's just not very popular.
Yeah. Being from Wisconsin, New Glarus is really big for us.
Okay.
We really like the spotted cow. And then there's a Belgian cherry, and we would actually do like a 50-50 and call it a cherry cow. But we just don't have access to cherry cows out here until my family comes out for Christmas. And then they bring us
them your list.
Yep. So we do the Blue Moon.
Totally. That's awesome. Oh, love it. All right. Last one. I should have asked you this earlier, but just why did you start your podcast, The Bird Dog Babe?
Good question. Why did I start it? We moved here. So September of 19 and then the awesome COVID hit. I hate saying the word because it's so annoying. I know.
I'm not going to say it.
I'm not going to say it. It's this nutty C word. Well, that's not good either. But so I don't know. I listen to a lot of great podcasts. I love listening to the Bird Dog podcast, a lot of them. But I always I started taking these notes of if I ever had one, what would the topic be? And I have such a, I just want to learn. I love to learn. And I think that's probably why I'm going through for my MBA right now at 39 years old, because I just love to learn stuff.
Yeah, you can't stop.
I can't stop. It's a terrible addiction, but I really love it. But I like learning things, and even when you think you learned it, you really don't, you haven't, because there's still more to learn. And I love a lot of women in my life have inspired me, whether it be hunting or with the dogs. And man, a lot of them in the field trials and hunt tests and NAVDA, there's some amazing women. And I just wanted to hear more from them. And I do think that women have a little bit different, feelings towards or experiences. The way that we discuss it, the way that we do it is a little bit different. Sure. And to capture that is what I really like. So I wanted to hear from a lot more women. And
that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
And that was a way for me during COVID too, when I stopped traveling for work. I wasn't meeting anybody after I had just moved to a brand new state.
Sure.
And it was kind of a way for me to connect with other women. And I did that season. I hunted with a lot of women. And it was great.
That's so cool.
So yeah,
I love that.
Super rewarding.
Keep up the great work. I've listened to a few of your episodes, and I think you're doing a great job. And so keep it up.
So are you. Yeah. I enjoy it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's not an easy thing to do. It's a lot, right?
It is. Like we were saying before, we got, families, and the wife's taking care of the kids and making dinner, and it's a commitment, but it's fun too.
It is fun because there's a lot of great people in the bird dog community.
Yeah, there is. I keep meeting more and more of them.
Right. And they're supportive and they're amazing, and they all have such awesome stories. And I think we all can continue to grow and learn and do more, do better from listening to that. So
absolutely. Well, how can people follow along with if they have questions for you, want to reach out, connect with you? Is it just Instagram best way, or?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Try to do Instagram at Bird Dog Babe. Yeah. I reply to every single private message I get. Usually every post I try to get to. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
It can be an intimidating thing. So I always like to be open and help people out where I can. I don't know everything, but that's why all these amazing connections I've met doing the podcast, I can definitely help steer you in the right direction of someone who can.
That's fantastic. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for your time tonight. It was fantastic just getting to know you a little bit more and hearing more of your story. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk to you soon, and good luck with that, hopefully your first Bracco litter.
Yeah, thank you. That would be
You're
great.
Welcome. All right. Take care.
You too.
Well, that's a wrap of episode 40 with Courtney Bastian of Bird Dog Babe podcast. Courtney, thank you so much for your time. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation and getting to know you more and your dogs and Bracco and Wirehaired, and of course, the little Cocker Spaniel. It's so fun hearing your story and staying up to date with what's going on with you and your family up in the great state of Montana. So all the best this coming season. Hey guys, that's a wrap of episode 40. Again, thank you for the support and just tuning in week after week, just connecting with the podcast, chatting online. I really, really love it. So keep it up. Keep sharing the show. Rate and review Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening to. Really help the show get out there to more hunters and bird dog lovers just like you. Hey, put some miles on those boots. Follow your favorite bird dog. Gosh, I forget my own tagline after every show. Gosh, I don't know what's wrong with me. I have one job. Just do the tagline right. Just do the tagline. All right, guys, I gotta go. Take care. Thanks. See you next week.